different things to it. But what people don't want to see is a disruption in their health care. They'd rather see an expansion, they'd rather see choices, they'd rather all kinds of things. And that's what we have to do. As the feds figure it out, we as states then have to make a seamless transition to make our citizens feel most comfortable.
So very quickly, do you think that that will be dealt with?
I do. I think it'll be handled, and also I have a lot of faith in our state lawmakers and our governor that whatever needs to be done at the state level to coordinate will get done.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to building a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border. We know that was a big part of the president's campaign, and in Tuesday night's speech, he said construction will begin soon. Listen in.
We want all Americans to succeed, but that can't happen in an environment of lawless chaos. We must restore integrity and the rule of law at our borders.
All right. So will that wall be built? A, my first question.
It can't be built. I mean, there are parts where the topography won't allow that. Now, there are places where it can be reinforced with a fence or even a wall, and that's great, but there are other things that have to be done. Simply putting up a 2,000-mile wall is not going to solve our immigration issues.
No, I think the issue of how are you going to pay at the end of the day for all of this, right? Or is there going to be a tax on Americans to pay? I mean, we've not really heard lately about the Mexico, and the devil's always in the details. Now, I think there's some short-term things that actually can happen. I think you could actually build a big part of it, but the question is the money. And if we're spending a lot of money on defense, which he has clearly said we're going to, we have to look at where what's going to happen around.
And there's been a lot of pushback on his immigration plans. Do you think he's hearing that? Do you think he's changing his tune on this?
I think he's sort of doubling down. My favorite moment in that speech is when he brought up the VOICE program, which is like victims of immigration, violence, office.
Immigration crime engagement.
Exactly.
Yes.
And it was total political theater. It was a trap that was laid. Obviously, it's not something of substance, and then all the Democrats fell into it, moaning and groaning. I thought it was a great bit of theater.
Now, to that point, in my first year in the legislative session, I ran such a bill in terms of knowing aliases, getting illegal people who have offended and have hurt Colorado citizens, and looking at all their aliases, deporting them, finding out, you know, in a way, a border patrol. That's a tough thing to pass. I passed it, but we've had a lot of reiterations since then. We do have to do something. I'm sorry, we do. I'm with him. We have to keep the rule of law.
I agree.
Okay, one thing that I think was hard to miss at the address was the silent protest by Democratic women. You saw them all dressed in white, a color historically associated with women's suffrage. Their way of reminding the president they want to keep women's rights issues like health care, paid leave, and equality moving forward. Do you think women's rights issues are at risk in a Trump administration?
Not at all. I don't think that they really are an issue with him. I mean, I've got full rights as a citizen, as do you, you. I just don't see anything changing. I'm not sure that the women in white thing worked. Seems to me that everyone was like, why are they wearing white? What are they doing? You know, wasn't
other than folding their arms, you know, and just kind of, you know, saying no, you know, no way. It just kind of was a little ridiculous, but whatever. I don't think our rights are at risk, and frankly, we make our rights. I mean, look, we push forward as women.
But
I'm not
there's a lot
looking
of
to
women
someone to
who
give
take
me my
issue
rights.
with his policies, and we see weekend after weekend protests. So there clearly is a divide.
Well, I thought there was divide under Bush. And let's be very clear. I mean, particularly on issues on Planned Parenthood funding, on funding for programs that weren't just about Planned Parenthood. Bush did that under his administration, and you heard screaming and wailing then. It didn't stop one thing.
Well, women are not a monolithic group, right?
Yes.
So half of women support abortion, half of women do not.
Right.
And so I think, you know, and maybe there will be a Supreme Court ruling at some point. Who knows? But I don't know that. I mean, he can't unilaterally do anything on that issue. I think where I, as a woman, was troubled was during the campaign and the rhetoric. And I think a lot of women, very understandably, are concerned about his character towards women. But as far as policies, I just don't see much happening.
Amy, you said the words kicking and screaming, which reminds me of, I want to switch to Cory Gardner here for a moment because of the whole issue with town hall meetings or lack of town hall meetings. Did he handle that well? Should those have been handled differently? You know, I think they should have been. And it's not just Cory Gardner. I don't mean to pick on him.
No. I mean, I know Senator Gardner's had a lot of phone calls to his office. That very clearly he has. And I really think the Tom Cotton approach is just showing up and saying, okay, everybody, we're going to talk. We're just going to talk. And yes, you are going to have people that are upset. And I think a lot of Republicans, and let's go back to the Obamacare bill, the repeal bill next week. They're educating members now. I mean, a lot of members have said, you can't have us walking out there with just a few little talking. We've got to know what's going on inside. And I think that's important. And I know that Senator Gardner is really great at town halls. And so it's not a matter of can he speak to people. I just think they don't want, you know, in
But
a
is it about what
chaotic
they want?
situation.
Really, it's about their constituents. And
It
the
is.
constituents want to be
It
heard
is,
right now.
but it's also how you communicate. And I think how those things take place, you either get your points across or it just is pandemonium. I give it to Corey. He's out everywhere, even right now, off session. He's everywhere.
I think a lot of people would take issue with that because he hasn't been as accessible as they would like. But you know, we have
Believe
time.
me, I've been there. I've held town halls and had it crazy, and you know, and you've
It
seen
can
them.
be. It can be
It
insane.
can be.
All right,
yeah.
you two. Thank you so much,
Hey, thank
both of you,
you.
for
Good
being
to
here.
see
We'll have
you.
to do this again and
Let's do
again.
it.
So thank you, and stay with us. We'll take a look at how the way women get birth control in Colorado is changing. That's when we come back.